Hurricane watch issued for Beryl in Texas. Watches and warnings for flooding, rainfall, storm surge and hurricane winds were in effect along much of the Texas coast on Saturday, as the National Hurricane Center watches to see whether Tropical Storm Beryl will become a hurricane again as it approaches the Texas coast on Monday. In its 10 a.m. Central update on Saturday, the National Hurricane Center said a hurricane watch covers the Texas coast from the mouth of the Rio Grande north to San Luis Pass, south of Galveston. A tropical storm warning is in effect south of Baffin Bay to the Rio Grande, and the storm surge watch is in effect south of High Island, meaning almost the entire coast. Beryl is forecast to approach Matagorda Bay, the coast of Texas and northeastern Mexico, on Monday as a Category 1 hurricane with 85 mph winds, but first it has to recover from its trip over the Yucatan Peninsula and the dry air and wind shear it has been fighting in the Gulf of Mexico. Almost the entire Texas coast lies within the Hurricane Center's potential forecast for the center of Beryl's path over the next 5 days. On Saturday morning, Beryl had 16 mph winds and was about 460 miles southeast of Corpus Christi, Texas, moving west-northwest. The average forecast track error at 48-hour is about 70 miles, the Hurricane Center said on Saturday morning. Because of the angle of the storm's approach to Texas, that size margin of error can make a significant difference in where the biggest impacts occur. Beryl is forecast to produce 5 to 10 inches of rainfall in Texas, with up to 15 inches in isolated locations, across portions of the coast and in eastern Texas beginning late Sunday through the middle of next week, the Hurricane Center said. The storm also is forecast to deliver a storm surge amounts of 2 to 5 feet along the coast and dangerous rip currents. Residents in Texas should be familiar with their flood zones, as well as those who live in Louisiana, and should be closely monitoring the storm's progress, according to the Hurricane Center. All of South Texas should be preparing for a hurricane, Kirsten Snodgrass, a meteorologist in Corpus Christi, wrote in a Friday morning forecast update. Even though heat is a concern going into the weekend, for those that live in Beryl's potential path, now is the time to make sure preparations are complete. Know your flood zone and check on your neighbors, especially those who may be vulnerable, forecasters said. It's important to know your risk, Michael Brennan, Hurricane Center Director, told USA Today in March. It's knowing if you live in a storm surge evacuation zone. What is a hurricane watch? A watch means hurricane force winds above 74 mph are possible within 48 hours. What is a hurricane warning? A warning means hurricane force winds above 74 mph are expected within 36 hours. What is a tropical storm warning? A warning means tropical storm force winds of 39 to 73 mph are expected within 36 hours. What is a tropical storm watch? A watch means tropical storm force winds 39 to 73 mph are possible within 48 hours. What's the forecast for Louisiana and Texas? After ripping through the Caribbean, brushing Jamaica, and making landfall along the Yucatan Peninsula, the storm's winds have weakened considerably, but the Hurricane Center's forecasters aren't quite sure what will happen once Beryl fully re-enters the Gulf of Mexico. Its future wind strength depends on how much of its core remains intact, and its future path depends on how strong Beryl becomes and how it interacts with atmospheric systems over the southern United States. At 10 a.m. CT on Saturday, the forecast called for Beryl to gradually intensify over the Gulf, making landfall as a Category 1 hurricane with 85 mph winds on Monday. Regardless of the path or intensity of the storm, life-threatening beach conditions are expected later today across much of the Gulf Coast and are forecast to continue through the weekend. Track Beryl's forecast. Forecasters say it's important to monitor the storm's progress, but remember the Hurricane Center's forecast cone shows only the likely path of the center of the storm. Weather impacts could occur many miles away. How to prepare your home. If you're in an area where high winds are possible with Hurricane Beryl, here are things you can do to get ready. Secure loose items in your yard that could be blown over, such as lawn furniture, grills, bicycles, etc. Check your emergency go bag and medical supplies in case you must evacuate. Charge your phone. Fill up or charge your vehicle. Help your neighbors, especially if they're vulnerable. What is storm surge? Brennan has said water is one of the greatest dangers in a hurricane, including storm surge, intense rainfall, and rip currents. Storm surge occurs when the winds of a hurricane push the water higher than normal high tides, raising the ocean level, and then big waves occur on top of that. It's one of the most destructive forces in a hurricane. Understanding storm surgeographics explain the deadly phenomenon. Preparing a kit. If you live in a low-lying area prone to flooding, you might be asked to evacuate and need to prepare an emergency go bag to take with you. As of Friday, the forecast called for up to 10 inches of rain in areas along the coast, with even higher amounts in isolated locations. A flash flood risk extends well east along the Gulf Coast into Louisiana by Tuesday. Hurricane season is here. Here's how to put together your preparedness kit or go bag. Beryl's historic journey. Beryl was born as a tropical depression on June 28 and became a tropical storm later that evening. It broke records over the next several days for rapid intensification so early in hurricane season. It became a hurricane within 24 hours of formation. Within another 24 hours, its winds had increased 55 mph, reaching 130 mph, almost a Category 4 hurricane. Hurricane Beryl, a history-making path through the Caribbean. Beryl battered the Windward Islands along the eastern Caribbean, causing widespread destruction in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Grenada, destroying or severely damaging more than 90% of the homes and buildings on at least 3 islands. After plowing through the islands, Beryl again re-strengthened, becoming a Category 5 storm, then reaching winds of 165 mph on the morning of July 2.